Traveler. We're really glad to have Bob here. I wanted to fill you in on some of the other things that are going on here. I always like to do that because there's always new people that come, and I love it. Last month we had Helen and Ham, and they were here and talked about going to England. That was great. This week, this coming Friday, we have Jeff Pert coming for the Literary Luncheon. I don't even like to call it Literary Luncheon, knowing who he is. It's more like fun and games and a snack. How many know who Jeff Pert is? I bet you know who he is. He's the guy that made those T-shirts that say, Bob? Bob? Yeah. Are you in there, Bob? Of the lobster in the pot cooking? Okay, he's the one.
I was stupid.
Yes, I'm with Stupid, and Stupid's in the trap. Well, Jeff Bird is coming to speak this Friday for a luncheon. So if you're interested in coming and hearing him, he's written a book. It's actually all of his cartoons, or some of his cartoons, that are put into a book. So I think it's going to be fascinating. We still have some spaces left for that, but it is limited, so let me know as soon as you can. It's $10 if you want to have the lunch. If you don't, then you can just come and listen. Or you can still write your name down. We'll make sure we have a chair set up for you. Other programs that we have here, we have our writers group, which is twice a month, the first and third Tuesdays of the month. Our French conversation is the last Monday of each month. We have a Monday morning book group now, which is talks about nonfiction and historical fiction. We have a Monday night book club, and that talks about they talk about the New York Times bestsellers, and they just kind of work out what book they're going to do. Both of them do. We have a big thing coming up the end of next week, and I'm really trying to promote this. Is we have a father-daughter dance. And it doesn't matter if you don't have a father, or you don't have a daughter, or there's no connection there, and you don't have a partner, find a partner. So we just want the little girls to be made special for one night. So find a dad, or dads find a girl, or whatever, so they can come. And that's on the February 15th, kind of around Valentine's Day. And it's not just a dance, don't worry, men. I've been told men are just fearful of 3 hours of dancing. So it's dancing, games, prizes from a lot of people, a lot of businesses around our Blue Bay Harbor here. We're very surprised and thankful for how many people are chipping in to make this work. Let's see, what else? Am I missing anything? Dorothy, next month, Spencer Apollonio is talking about India, and I can't remember the name of the town in India. But anyway, you can sign up for that as well. I think that's it. Okay, now Bob. I met Bob through Dorothy. Dorothy has kind of been heading up this Armchair Traveler for 2 years. 2 or 3 years, a while, yeah. And she knew Bob, and I knew Bob from his book that I had sitting on my desk about close to a year ago.
No, it came out in July.
July, okay. So, 3/4.
What's the book?
Southwest to Panama. He has a copyright here. I'm sure he'll tell you more about it. But the things I know about Bob, I'm going to test my memory here because I wrote an article and put it in the paper, but I don't have it in front of me. So Bob grew up in Massachusetts, am I correct?
Yes.
And his father loved sailing, and they would sail down the river into the ocean. And then when he got married, it just kind of continued, and he and his late wife owned a few sailboats, and they did sailing all over New England area, and Mexico, one more place.
West coast of California.
Yes. And this story, I think, is just fascinating. I mean, how many times you get to have somebody come in and speak about this? I think I'm excited about it. So let's welcome Bob.
Well, let me say thank you for coming. I appreciate it very, very much. See if we can find this young lady a seat.
Yes, we'll try.
Okay, Barb will take care of you. Okay. As I mentioned before,
There's another chair.
oh, here's a chair over here for you. I knew we had your name on it.
Thank you very much.
You're most welcome. Refer to it. I think you'll find it good reference material. There's only one small, not an error, but an item that didn't happen, and that is in the itinerary, because of our limited fuel range, we plotted into our GPS. Everybody know what a GPS is? Okay. Aruba. But as it turned out, we didn't need to go to Aruba, so we skipped it and went directly to the canal. So from Tortola to the canal, that's a distance of about 1,050 miles. And with a fuel range of only 500 miles, obviously we couldn't run the engine all the time. Okay, we'll come back to this particular slide as we need to. Let me start off by showing you where we started, which is Tortola. The island itself is the largest and most populated of the BVIs, and they are a group of islands that form part of the archipelago of the Virgin Islands. Local tradition recounts that Christopher Columbus named it Tortola, meaning land of the turtle dove. He named the island itself Santa Ana. Columbus named the entire island chain Virgin after the 11,000 virgins of the 4th century martyr Ursula. I believe I'm pronouncing that right. Ursula, Ursula. This is a panoramic view of Harbor Town. It is probably the most popular harbor of any of the BVI islands. Tortola is 13 miles long, but it's only 3 miles wide. And it's a very popular spot for tourist ships. And while we were there were two while we were in port.
I have a question.
Sure.
When did this occur?
I'm sorry. We left Tortola on the 13th of November.
Of what year?
Last year, 2012.
Okay.
So it's very recent, yes. This is the anchorage where the moorings is located. Now, the moorings is probably the largest charter boat company in the world. They have about 40 locations scattered around the world. But Harbor Town is their largest collection of boats. And there are probably somewhere between 400 sail and power boats in this particular anchorage at this particular point in time. It is truly a charter boat paradise. It's where most people come if they want to charter a boat, either to do it by themselves, which is called barefooting, or with a captain and a crew. Now, let me introduce the cast of characters here. The captain is on the left. His name is Doug Danielson. He's a 100-ton U.S. Coast Guard skipper. He's a boat surveyor, and he is also a writer. He lives with his wife, Karen, in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. And I've crewed with Doug for probably, well, certainly well over 20 years, in all shapes and sizes of boats. My novel, Plug, Southeast to Panama, is a work of fiction based on the actual events of a delivery that I did with him in 1997. The book is fiction, but it's based on actual events. Center is Scotty Lee Bretag, also from Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. He lives where he lives on his sailboat. An electronics technician, U.S. Navy trained. He is a good boat handler, a computer geek, and the boat's electrician. He is single, independently wealthy due to a very large inheritance from his parents, and he too has crewed with Doug for 10 years plus. Right is Eric Paul Klimowski from Santa Barbara, California. He's a firefighter, a paramedic for the city of Montecito, California. Eric is an experienced boat handler, mechanic, and medic. He is married with 2 children. He is the boat's mechanic. And the fourth member, of course, not pictured, is yours truly, Bob Devine from Booth Bay, Maine. I am basically responsible for provisioning, meal planning, meal preparation. I'm the cook. Pretty good boat handler, pretty good navigator. I'm a photographer, I'm a good storyteller, and I'm the sage. Okay, so that's it, 5 of us. Pardon me, 4 of us. This gal, like so many at the moorings, was very cheerful, attentive, and full of information. She and her husband immigrated from Haiti, where they have found economic conditions much better in Tortola than they were at home. Okay, next slide. Here we go. The boat is a 51-foot, 4-inch, 2007 Bettenot sloop-rigged, auxiliary-powered, fiberglass sailboat custom-built for the moorings. She was built in France. She is powered by a 110 horsepower turbocharged 4-cylinder Yanmar diesel engine capable of providing speeds of 8 knots at 2,750 RPMs. Now for a sailboat, that's pretty good. Most sailboats of this particular size, if you get 6 knots out of them under power, you can consider yourself lucky. Now at 2,750 RPMs, your fuel economy goes to hell in a handbag. So 2,200, 2,250 will give you about the average type of range that you're looking for. Her name is Magpie Bridge. Don't ask, I don't know. We tried to find out. Her home port is Auburn, Alabama. The owners had her in charter with the moorings when they decided in 2012 to sell her. And this is not unusual. The moorings offers this type of a plan where you can buy the boat and then put it in charter with them. And they pretty much guarantee that they will cover your mortgage payment on the boat, as well as give you roughly 4 weeks of the boat for your own personal use at your discretion and the availability of the boat. You don't want to probably ask to have the boat during the high season because that's when it's best chartered and that's where you make your money. So these folks had it for 5 years. They probably had pretty well depreciated the boat at that particular point in time, and they put it up for sale. Now, Captain Doug's client in Puerto Vallarta, who owns a company called Vallarta Adventures. Anybody been to Puerto Vallarta? Okay. Bought the boat and then commissioned Doug to sail it to Mexico. So that kind of sets things up. 2 wheels, which seems to be a favorite characteristic of the Bettenot boats. And it's designed so that if you're heeling to starboard, you can steer her from the port wheels. It's pretty well suited for ocean travel, but in this particular case, the boat probably never left the immediate vicinity of the Tortola and the Virgin Islands. Okay, let me give you a little bit more information on her. 2 double forward cabins with a head. Everybody know what a head means? Mm-hmm. Toilet and shower. 2 double cabins aft with head accommodations. She sleeps and handles 8 people very, very comfortably. In addition, there is a crew quarters in the bow forward of this compartment where a captain or a navigator or a cook, if you should prefer, can sleep and be out of the way, who would help operate the boat. So if you didn't want to sail it yourself, you could hire a captain, and that's where he or she would live. The electronics panel kind of the, well, I was going to say the heart of the boat, but certainly that's where all of the electronics is run from. Well, let's see. All right, let me go forward here. The galley, it's got a 3-burner stove with an oven, a 2-compartment stainless sink, refrigerator, freezer, plenty of cabinet space for storage of dishware and for dry goods. And because it runs parallel with the boat as opposed to perpendicular, when we were particularly under power and the boat, goes this through the water, this works out nicely because that way there, you can pretty much keep your balance doing this, but when the boat's heeling back and forth this way, you can find yourself on the floor very easily. Didn't happen to me, but I'm sure it could. So, here I go, Ryan. All right, Norman, will you pass that over? There you go. All right. Okay. I won't do that again.
Bob, that looks deceptive. If you look at it from the back part, you couldn't imagine all this was in the interior of it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty good size. 51 feet's good size.
What's the beam bar?
I believe she's 13 feet. The settee, which is kind of to the right, accommodates four folks comfortably. And the pass-over bar, which is, this guy here, come on, my little pencil here, right here, makes it nice to be able to, as you're preparing food, put here, and then it'll come over here. Now, we never used it, but I'm sure it was used during the time it was in charter. That's my little cabin, my little bunk.
Is that an aft or forward?
That's an aft cabin. I was smart enough to get in the aft so that you didn't get this one boom, bitty boom along the way.
Gravitational changes like that.
Here's the cockpit, roomy and spacious. The electronic piece of equipment here is made by the Raytheon company, Ray Marine. It's a chart plotter, and that's the screen. And of course, it virtually has taken over or replaced paper charts. Paper charts just aren't used anymore. You program in your coordinates where you want to go, and this will display it. And it will not only display it, but it'll keep you on track. It'll draw a rhumb line. A rhumb line is a straight line, nautical term, between point A and point B. And if you start to wander off of that, this will talk to the autopilot. The autopilot will make the corrections, and it's virtually hands-free. Of course, it's great while everything works. Things start to go awry, then you're in trouble. Let's see. Yeah, it interfaces with the GPS, the Global Positioning Service, and makes course corrections as needed through the autopilot. It also features an instrument called an AIS, an automatic identification system that will show another boat or another object that is present before you can see it visually. It can see over the horizon. And of course, there's a instrument on the top of the mast that allows it to do that. The boat also has a satellite telephone for long-range communications, and we use that a lot. That was very, very handy. Okay, there's the chart plotter. This one is nearly obsolete. One, because of its size, and number two is because really they've added so many more whistles and bells to them now. I would bet, and I don't know this for sure, that this was probably part of the original package of the boat in 2007. So in the 5 or 6 years since then, this guy here has been updated and upgraded many, many times.
About an 8-inch screen?
Yes, yeah. That's right.
That's actually not the top of the line.
No, That's right.
It's pretty hard to keep up with them.
It is, isn't it though?
You know, I mean,
Yeah,
you buy one, you get it all installed, and when you send
That's
the
right.
warranty card in, they send you a brochure on the new one.
that's right. That's exactly right. But it worked for us, and that's what was important. This gentleman, together with his wife, own a provisioning service, and we took advantage of them, and he was bringing frozen meals to the boat for the trip, and they were delicious. We put them in the freezer, and we used them on the way to the canal. She makes an awesome pudding. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Let me get. Okay. Now, little quick picture. Road Town is the principal settlement of the capital of BVI, with a population of 8,000. Tortola has an overall population of 27,000. Financial services are the main source of income to the island. BVI residents are among the most affluent in the Eastern Caribbean. Although BVI is under the British flag, it uses the US dollar as its official currency, and it floats with the dollar. Narrow winding streets, very typical of the Caribbean. One thing I got a kick out of is that they do drive on the right-hand side of the street, and most vehicles are right-hand drive. So you got a little bit of Great Britain along with the USA.
You mean on the left?
They drive on the left.
They drive on the left-hand side, yes. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Okay, after a 3.5-day delay, and the delay dealt with the transfer of monies between the owners in Mexico and the new buyers in Mexico and the owners in Alabama, and I won't even begin to tell you what I know about the problems that were going on, but it took them 3.5 days to figure out how to get the money where it was supposed to be. This is a picture of looking into the harbor at Harbor Town and the breakwater. Next is a little bit further out. This is the breakwater and the 1,000-foot long dock that the cruise ships use. And 2 ships can park there at one time. The government office buildings can be seen in the distance. The low white building here. This is also the financial section of the city, and it was here where Doug and I had to come to clear customs and immigrations in order to leave the country. We pass many different islands on the way out. This is the last of the islands belonging to Tortola and the BVIs. This and scores of others provide a popular one-day destination for cruisers out of Road Town Harbor. Here's Captain Doug at the wheel. Not much to do if everything's going well. Autopilot takes care of things. We are proceeding in a southwesterly direction. What you can see in the background is the west end of Tortola. And we are in what is called the Sir Francis Drake Channel. And if you look on the map, you'll see it. Here's yours truly at the helm, looking like he knows what he's doing. We're getting into open water, and now for the next 6 days, there'll be no land. Nothing in sight. I couldn't even get a radio station on my MP3, so that tells you how far away we were. Here's Eric at the helm, the eyes and ears of the boat. We really make pretty good progress. We have a good 15-knot wind from behind us. The boat has a 120% Genoa. And it's not like a chute, not like a lightweight chute. but it pulled us along. And we tried to set it up as best we could on a wing-on-wing basis. The main on one side, the Jenny on the other side.
Did you have a whisker puller?
No, wish we did.
Makes it hard.
Wish we had. Now, I'll pause for a second because that's a good point. You see, the boat never went very far. And here we're taking it on a 3,500-mile trip. And there were a lot of things that we really wished we had. And one, of course, was a whisker pole. The other thing would have been nice to have had a chute as well.
Bob, did you guys go in shifts at the helm?
Yes.
Some people slept, others...
Yep, I'll touch on that in a minute. So, yeah, we averaged under sail between 6.5 and 7 knots. We rolled along pretty good. And you can see light chop, 1 to 2 feet, an occasional white cap. But of course at night the wind would die off and we didn't run the engine for almost 6 days. The boat also has a 7 kW generator, and we'd run the generator twice a day to power the batteries and run the air conditioner a little bit. It's hot, gets sticky. Yeah, the breeze doesn't help, particularly when the breeze is behind you and you're moving along. So you've only got maybe 3 or 4 knots of wind to cool you off while you're even in the cockpit. We picked up this little guy. What is he, Norman? Is he a chickadee? Yeah, okay. Yeah. He hitched a ride with us for several hours. Fresh water and breadcrumbs restored his energy. 24 hours later, or after departure, we've traveled 125 miles. And we calculated that if we could average that, we could make the canal in our 8-day period of time. Okay. And again, it's all about conserving fuel because, again, we only have a 530-mile range. So at this particular point in time, we have 900 miles to go to the canal. Beautiful, beautiful sunsets. And the next 4 days are a carbon copy of the first. We continue to average 125 miles a day. Our routines include a watch schedule. And that is 3 hours on, 9 hours off. Because of the 4 of us, we could do the 24-hour cycle in that. Of course, the routine includes the watch schedule, but it also includes preparing meals, keeping the boat clean, reading and sleeping. Important things. Now here's Scotty, and he's recording his readings into the ship's logbook. We are required to enter our Latin longitude and latitude, positions hourly, together with boat speed, compass course, wind speed direction, and engine oil temps and pressures. Also, if there's anything unusual that's happened during the hour preceding, you're required to log that into the book.
Who requires that?
It may be a Coast Guard regulation, but Doug's the captain. He's pretty savvy, pretty strict. And you can also see that Doug has a handheld Garmin GPS on the table, and we used it as kind of a backup, or at least an instrument to double check the boat's GPS. It's just a little insurance policy. Eric, I thought resembled Tom Hanks. And he had to admit that many people over a period of time asked him whether he was. Here he sits relaxed in the cockpit on the afternoon of Thursday, the 21st, 8 days after departure. He is mentioned earlier as a firefighter, and in this particular case has been recalled to duty. He's on vacation, but his captain called him. They had an emergency at the firehouse. They had some type of, well, not at the firehouse, but they had an emergency in the city. And several of the firefighters of his company were badly injured. And they called him back. And it was kind of, well, funny may not be the right word, but I got a kick out of the fact that his captain called him, and we were still 3 days from Panama. And his captain says, "You've got to get back here right now." And he says, "Well, wait a minute, I'll get off and walk." So, but anyways, he'll be leaving us in Cologne to fly home to Santa Barbara. I'll miss him, as he's been really a good shipmate. Now, as we draw closer to the canal, we pass a number of ships anchored awaiting clearance to proceed inside the breakwater to the final staging area where they pick up a pilot before proceeding. Notice that the weather has deteriorated to low clouds and rain. Not unusual for this part of the world at this time. With the weather change came less and less wind, requiring more use of the engine. So for the past few days, we've probably ran the engine more than we actually sailed it. But by then, we were confident that we had the range. Now, this ship is empty. And some of these ships have been waiting for long periods because of improper paperwork or other violations imposed by the canal authorities. That's all supposition on our behalf. There may be some other reasons why he's sitting there, but he may be there still today. We're inside the breakwater. Of course, the other breakwater is to the right of the slide. Of course, this is a huge body of water, and it forms the northern entrance to the canal. Now, a common misconception is that the canal runs east and west, when in actuality it runs north and south. And if you look at that diagram, you can see that the way the landmass runs, at this particular point, the land is actually east-west, so the canal runs north and south. Okay. Now this is a very interesting slide, and we'll take a few minutes. We'll spend a few minutes on it. Now, we're entering the canal up here at Cologne from the Atlantic side. And you can see, if you follow the red line, you can watch how it comes back down, or comes down, and we enter the Pacific at Balboa. This massive body of water here is called Gatun Lake. The smaller lake in this area here, no, I'm sorry, it's down further in here. In fact, it's so small it's hardly identifiable, is Miraflores Lake. Now, in the circle, if you come across here, you can see the red line, which is this line here, which is the existing route of the canal. And these are the three locks at the Cologne side called the Gatun locks. If you take this circle here and come across, well, let me finish my story up here. The dotted line is the new canal that is being built, that is being dug as we talk tonight. Expected to open sometime in 2015. It will double the capacity of the canal. It will also increase the lock chambers to the point where a United States aircraft carrier could then go through it. The locks, pardon?
Right now they have Panamax ships.
That's right.
Exactly
That's maximum.
in the locks.
And how big is the lock then?
It's about 950 feet by 160, something like
Yeah.
that. And so
It's 1,000 feet long, yeah, 110 feet wide.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's a little bit-
Yeah. So the only visible signs that we saw of the new, let's call it trenching, if you would, is up here at Cologne. And the weather was so nasty that there was no way I could get a picture. In fact, I actually tried, and all I got was a bunch of gray. But it is underway. It is under construction. Now, down here is the elevation, which is kind of interesting. Cologne side, the locks, the Gatun locks. This is Gatun Lake. Miraflores Lake. One lock here into Miraflores, and then two locks to take you down to the Pacific side at Balboa. This lock up here, this single chamber lock, is Pedro Miguel, and these down here are called the Miraflores locks. You are raised 85 feet above sea level. Each lock takes you up 28 feet. So 28 times 3 should get you close to 85 feet. Okay. Anybody got any other questions on that?
This may be a foolish question, Bob, but how big are these locks? Are they one boat at a time, or?
Yes.
several boats?
Well, depending on the size of the boat. A Panamax, which this gentleman's talking about, that's all it'll fit. But in the case of us, when we went through, there were, at one occasion, 4 other boats in there with us, and one was a pretty good-sized tanker. A common, let's say, freighter or oil tanker, probably would only fit one boat. Yeah. All right. The flag of Panama. Little bit of history. Since 1819, Panama has been Panama had been a federation of Colombia. But when Colombia rejected the U.S. plans to build a canal across the isthmus, the U.S. supported a revolution, which we seem to be very good at doing, that led to the independence of Panama in 1903. The new government then authorized a treaty allowing the U.S. to build the canal with perpetual control. Now, a lot has changed, as we all know, since then. I'll also add that although the French had attempted construction of the canal in the 1880s, the canal was successfully built from 1904 to 1914 by America. Now, an excellent book, if you want to read about all of that, is David McCulloch's book called The Path Between the Seas. It's excellent. It's big. Takes you a winter to go through it, perhaps. Dorothy, are you through it yet?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. But a good precursor might be to pick up a less expensive little thing called Southeast of Panama, because I devote two chapters to that particular.
There's also a DVD of the book. Which
Is there a DVD on it too? Okay, all right.
Did
Okay.
you see lots of other yachts going through the canal?
Yes, but not as many as the trip that I took in 1997. Yeah.
So it's mostly commercial traffic?
Yes, by all means. And of course, it's very expensive too. Not as much as going around the Horn, though.
How expensive for the 50?
For our boat, I believe it was $1,250 to take it through. And of course, that includes. Pardon?
To take you through the canal?
Yeah, our boat, our 51-foot boat. Of course, that included our agent's fees and the pilot and everything. It was all inclusive.
What is it for a cruise ship?
Oh, I'd hate to think. Well, let's see. I did know when my wife and I went through on the Princess, I believe it was in the vicinity of $10,000. Yeah.
Were you rafting up to? Were you rafted up to another boat?
No, this time we were not. No, we stayed in, and that's why well, as I get into it, we needed 4 line tenders and the captain. There had to be 5 of us on board. A line handler on, 2 forward, 2 aft. Did I miss a slide? Come on. All right.
Go down, back here.
Yeah, right down the bottom.
Down,
Now, I want to show you this one here.
forward. No, forward. The other one's back.
Thank you. I think. There we go. All right. This is our new crew member. His name is Carlos Lopez from Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, to replace Eric. He is an employee of Vallarta Adventures, the new owners of the boat, and is well known to Doug and Scotty from prior deliveries. He's a Mexican national, married with 2 children, bilingual, and a good boat handler. And he will take over as the boat's mechanic. Okay, now, our first stop before transit is at Shelter Bay Marina to clear customs and immigration, buy fuel, and do provisioning. It is located in a well-sheltered bay next to the Panamanian Coast Guard station just inside the breakwater. There's a small mini-mart next to the clubhouse. It's small in size but well stocked. Carol we found to be extremely helpful and efficient. We gave her a list of the things we needed for provisions, and she had them ready for pickup at the time agreed upon. She and her husband Greg, a marine mechanic with a shop in the same building, are expats from California. This gentleman, John Haley, is a marina manager, a Brit by birth. He has lived in many places around the world, including Cartagena, Colombia. He was also a marina manager there. Shelter Bay Marina features concrete floating slips with 110, 220 volt shore power, potable water, and cable TV. There is room for over 200 boats according to their brochure, and can handle vessels up to 250 feet in length. Fuel is available, both diesel and regular gasoline. The bar and restaurant is where we spent Thanksgiving, 22nd of November. The marina provided the turkeys. Ever had a smoked turkey on a barbecue? It was delicious. And they asked, the marina asked the boaters to bring side dishes. And so it was a big potluck. The other times that we ate here, we found the food and service good but expensive. So here we're leaving the marina in an absolute driving rainstorm to take up a position in what is known as the flats to wait for our advisor to escort us through the canal. Because we are under 65 feet in length, we are assigned an advisor rather than a pilot. I couldn't tell the difference because we had a pilot when we went through before.
Less experience.
Well, this guy, as you'll see in a minute, had got 27 years of experience. I don't know when you don't become, when you're no longer
Maybe
considered.
He just gets assigned different.
He may not have the credentials. I don't know.
That's what I would say.
Does he actually take the helm, or does he just
No,
tell you what to do? Okay.
no, he doesn't touch anything. No. Visibility at times is less than a quarter of a mile. Anchor down. Now this is a small boat getting ready to go through.
Have you entered, you haven't entered
No,
the locks yet?
No, we're still in the big anchorage.
So you're all like lining up waiting to go in.
Yes. Our transit time was 3 p.m. and you know, it's like 2:45 here. It's wet, windy, and we are getting soaked, even with our slickers. Just I mean, it's 70, 75 degrees, but the wind and the water was just coming at you sideways. Now here's our advisor. His name is Roy, our most likable chap, Panamanian, 27 years of experience on the canal. And once he came aboard, once the pilot boat brought him on board, let's get going, he says. Let's get underway immediately. Visibility has improved a little bit. We're able to see more of the canal features. Now this cut here, that's in between the two stays of the mast, I have been told by a reportable source that that is all that is left of what the French built in their excavation of the canal in the late 1800s. All the work and all the money that they poured into it, because of the overgrowth, is all that's left. Thought that was kind of interesting. Now, of course, you're up close and friendly with these guys, and they're huge. This is a freighter. She's headed up to the locks, but at a very slow rate of speed, and so we pass her without much trouble. Whoop. Go. Navigation buoys identify our course. Right to starboard, or red to starboard, left to port. The weather and the darkness makes it difficult to photograph objects.
So you went through at night?
Our transit time was 3, yes. Yeah, of course, yes,
Did you stop in the tune? Or no?
we did, yeah. Yes, sir.
How much pre-planning does it take to go to transit the canal? I mean, you can't just show up and say we want to through.
End to end, 15,
In terms of coordinating with the authority that manages the canal, you have to apply to.
well, yes, and we did it through an agent. But you,
Is it weeks?
no, about day and a half, 2 days. Yeah, yeah. Of course, this agent's been around forever, and he knows how to get things done. This is a work barge being moved by a tug. I don't see the tug right offhand. Oh, I think he's over here. Yeah, he's up on the bow. Yeah, work on the canal goes 24/7. Passage through the canal goes 24/7. Lights were installed in the mid-60s, allowing work to go around the clock.
Bob, is there a lot of dredging?
Yes, constantly, constantly. As we draw closer to the chambers, we're coming out of that massive body of water, and it's narrowing down as we begin to approach the actual chambers themselves. Pass another huge freighter. This fellow has come through the locks, and she's outward bound now. This is the first set of locks that will raise us 85 feet to Gatun Lake. Each chamber raises us up 28 feet. Good photography is nearly impossible beyond this point because of the rain. Plus, I had a duty. I was a line handler, and I couldn't take pictures and keep my part of the arrangement of keeping the boat in the center of the chamber. So pictures from this particular point up, at least on this end, become a little scarce.
One of their Coast Guard ships?
No, that's just that's this guy here. Yeah. It's, well, admittedly, I guess I'm not actually real sure, but I think it's probably privately owned. It might be Tiger Woods' boat, who knows? Yeah. Okay, now This is really the only picture I was able to sneak in and get shot. And we're at the top of the third and last chamber of the Gatun complex. Visibility is reduced even more, and now in full darkness, we are told we will not be allowed to cross the lake until morning because of the weather conditions. So we are assigned a mooring buoy, and we tie off to it, and that's where we spend the night. The pilot comes, gets the pilot boat comes, gets our advisor, and they say, "C'est la vie," until tomorrow morning. The advisor said, "Be prepared for my replacement as early as 6 a.m. Well, ha ha. 10 o'clock they arrived.
6 a.m. Latino.
Yeah. We're all sitting around drinking coffee, waiting, and finally he shows up.
So how long is it through each lock?
To rise up between 10 and 12 minutes, or to drain out. Yeah.
You say it's all precision going through those locks, but then you can, it's not, you rest a lot in the Gatun Lake, is that it?
Say again, Dorothy. What?
You said it's all precision so that they work 24/7.
Yeah.
But in the lake, are there a lot of boats there waiting, continuing on the journey?
You mean up at Gatun?
Yeah.
No. They're in transit. They're getting across the lake as fast as I can.
But you aren't allowed to go across the lake.
Not at night.
Right, the small boats.
Yeah. In a driving rainstorm at dark,
Oh, okay.
no. In fact, for the first time in recent history, they actually had to close the chambers, the canal down, because there was getting so much water, rainwater, at such a rapid rate of speed, and the water was cascading out through the locks that it was creating a 5 to 6 knot current going out, and they felt they couldn't control the ship, so they shut everything down.
So that wasn't usual.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, here comes our new advisor, Ricky McLean. He's also a Panamanian and longtime canal employee. And of course, once he gets on board, it's all business. Let's get underway, which we do. And by then, admittedly, the weather had improved, but still overcast with occasional rain squalls and windy. This is the lake. This is Gatun Lake. It's a transit of 35 miles, and it takes roughly 3.5 hours to go across, if you're averaging 8 knots.
That's up at the top of that map you showed us?
Yes. Yep. The lake was formed by damming the ill-tempered Chagres River and is one of the largest man-made lakes in the world. It covers approximately 164 square miles. And of course, it's all fresh water. This is not the day that, this is another trip that I took, but I wanted to show you the vastness of the lake, just how big it is. In fact, it's so vast that at times I'm unable to see any definition at the horizon.
Bob, you keep referring to this lake, is that to imply that it's fresh water?
Yes, all fresh water. Yep. Now, freighter being helped by a tug. Could this tug have been built by Washburn and Doherty in East Boothway?
Looks like it's the right style.
Nope, it's not. It was built by the Irving Shipbuilding Company at Halifax, Nova Scotia. Now, I went over with the picture and spoke to a charming young lady at Washburn, and she was in with a couple of other gentlemen who told me that they had bid, that Washburn had bid on the canal tugs, but they lost it to Irving. But it does look very familiar. What do you call them? V-drive They turn 360 degrees.
Z drive, isn't it?
Is it Z? Okay, Z drive, yes. They can stop on a dime. 2 huge diesel engines in it, push it along. Powerful. Let's see now. The lake, much like the water body down at Cologne, narrows down as you get closer to the last set of, or the Pacific side locks. And this is what's called the Gilliard Cut. It's a 9-mile transit that connects Gatun Lake with the Pedro McGill locks. The cut is narrow, much like a river. And here we're passing the dredge Christensen, used for the removal of soils from underwater. The soil is so unstable and there's so much water, so much rainwater, that they're constantly having to dredge. Their desired depth here is 150 feet. So they're always digging or always dredging. This is the Thor. It's a drill boat used for underwater blasting. Together they work together, the 2 boats, in helping keep the waterway clear and a depth of 150 feet. And I found this on Wikipedia. This is a Bucyrus steam shovel. And I've suddenly lost my spot. What did I do? At one time, reportedly, there were 150 of these working at any one particular point in time in the cut. It weighs 95 tons, and of course it's a steam shovel. Now, what did they do with all this stuff? I'll tell you. This is the height that they dug down to get to water level here, or what is now water level. Pardon?
That's how far, that was the original height of the...
Yes. So you're in the Sierra Nevadas here, and this is the amount that they dug down. Now, they left this because it designates the continental divide. So rainwater rainwater flows either to the north to the Caribbean or to the south to the Pacific. Now, this is typical of the terracing, and the slide tends to lose the 3D effect. But interestingly, the cut was to have only been 670 feet wide. But because with each slide or fall in, because of the soil erosion, the depth continued to be wider and wider and wider. And today, the average width of the canal through here at the cut is 1,800 feet. So in order to get the soil to stop sliding in, they had to enlarge out 1,800 feet. Now we're at the entrance to Pedro McGill. Now, you see the arrow? Okay, we're on the right hand. We're looking at the right hand side lock. If I can get this to work. And if the people in the control tower want you to go in that lock, maybe to follow that ship, then they would point the arrow, and the tip of the arrow would turn green. That would tell you may advance. But in this particular case, even though the arrow is pointed that way, because it's not green, you best not go. This runs out, I believe, a little over 1,000 feet before you actually get into the lock itself. And of course, there's 2 of them, one here and one there. Now this is interesting. Here's an aerial view of the. Now this is the Gilliard cut that we've just come out of. We came through the left-hand lock, and as I say, there's only one lock. Actually, here's the lock here. I'm sorry. And then you're down into Miraflores Lake. So you can see two ships can pass through either in the same direction or in opposite directions at the same time. Here we're actually entering the chamber. From the standpoint of terminology, the complete unit, whether it's two bodies of water or three, are called locks. But each of these separately is called a chamber. The gates that open and close at either end of the locks are called gates, but the individual parts of the gate that open and close, and there are two in each set, are called leaves. Now there's your history of. So we're approaching the end of the chamber, and you can see how the leaves are closed. And then this slide shows that you can walk across it, and in this case you can see the lower chamber. So what you're going to have happen here is that the water will drain out to the level of that block, that chamber. These gates will open, and you'll proceed out. Or conversely, if you had come into these locks from the opposite direction, you would have raised up to this position before proceeding in the other direction. You can see the two swing bridges for the railroad. The tracks on both of the two walls carry what is traditionally known as the mules. I don't see one in this particular picture. I've got a couple shots here in a second. Now, here's an example of our being lowered down. Here's two mules, or locomotives, sometimes called donkeys, built by the General Electric Company, and GE is now, I think, down in Connecticut someplace, but at the time, the placards on them say GE from Schenectady, New York. Now over here, in the next chamber, is a freighter going the opposite direction, going out. And it's all controlled from up in the towers here. "28 feet down, almost to the bottom. These gates happen to be open. These are the two leaves. At one time, there were double leaves, or double gates. One is a backup behind the other. But since sometime in the 60s, they eliminated the second set of leaves because they've never had an accident where a leaf had been damaged. But you see, there were two boats in here with us at this particular time. You can see how we're tethered to the wall. See our line? That's a 3/8 inch rope. See the mules up above? Now, we don't use the mules. That's for the larger boats. What happens is that when we come into the chamber, and we're in position, the line handlers from up on the top of the wall with a monkey fist. You know what a monkey fist is? On a ball of, it's a ball of rope on the end of a line. Do this and they'll sling it at you, and down it comes. Now, if you're at, going up. If you're at the top of the chamber and you're coming down, entering or exiting the chamber, then it's just, they'll throw it over to you. But when you're going up, to the lake, and they're, what, 28 to 30 feet above you, and that thing comes whistling down at you. It's a little scary. And I've heard people that have been hit by them and been seriously damaged. Their head's been damaged. But, so my story is once they send down the painter, is what they call it. It's the small line with the monkey fist on it. You take and a half hitch or a knot of your choosing around the lines that you have on the boat. So there's 4 of them, one on port and 2 on either end of the boat, and then you play the line back up to them. They in turn attach it to the wall up here, and then you pull it taut. And now it's up to you to keep all 4 lines taut to keep your boat in the center of the chamber. That's how a small
You
boat
would
is.
never be parallel with another boat.
Well, you could be,
You could be. okay.
sure.
Yeah,
Yes, you could be.
raft up.
Yeah, you could raft up with somebody.
That's
but-
actually what's easy.
Yeah, yeah. So. Okay. We're entering Miraflores Lake. The gates open to allow us to pass out of the chamber. Miraflores Lake, in comparison to Gatun, is tiny. This is only 2 square miles, created by damming the Rio Grande River. You can see there's a small marina next to the locks. I don't know how this actually works, but you're allowed to leave your boat there for as long as 6 months. And you can then go visit Panama, you can go be a tourist, or what most people do who are North Americans, get on an airplane, fly home, and see their grandkids, get their teeth cleaned, and then fly home. So. Now this is a gate. I'm sorry, this is a leaf, so it's half a gate. And it's in for routine repair. And you can see all the work stations up above and the 2 derricks. They come in, according to our advisor, once every 5 years. And they're cleaned and routine maintenance. And we're only seeing 1/2 of it, because the rest of it's underwater, and it floats because it's watertight. And they weigh on an average of 745 tons. But they swing as easily as an oar because of the way the buoyancy of the lower half keeps the rest of it almost weightless. In McCulloch's book, he talks about they open and close so silently that it's amazing how quiet that they are. Okay, we're moving into the chamber. Yours truly in a photo op. We lived in our bathing suits for almost the entire trip.
Did you guys have to rent your lines, or did you have lines?
No, we rented them, yeah. It was cheaper.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah. An example of the enormous size of the chamber, 1,000 feet. McCulloch talks about it in terms of it being like a city block with no windows and no doors. If you tipped one up on its end, it would surpass the height of the Empire State Building.
How were the walls constructed?
Concrete, cement.
And how do they, what's the longevity of them being?
Yeah. Well, here, hold on just a second, and let me talk about it here. I guess this is what I wanted to show as far as the enormous size. But the other part of it is that, here we go. The leaves begin to open to allow us to move out. Here's one of the leaves as we're passing, and you can see it slides into an enclosure in the side of the chamber. You have to understand that this concrete work was done well over 100 years ago, when the ratio of sand to cement and, you know, the technology of cement mixing wasn't nearly to the point that it is today. And yet, when you look at these walls, they look like they were poured yesterday. It's amazing how they've been able to keep them in such good condition as they do, or as they have.
No frosties.
No frosties, that's right. That's right. And no salt water either. No salt. Yeah. This is the inside of a chamber being cleaned. Cleaning and maintenance in 2005. And you can see here is the average low water line. So this is the amount that you don't see underwater. And of course it has to be that way because that's where the boat is being carried, the water underneath the boat.
So they're coming up on 100 years.
It's over 100 years. Oh, 1914 to, yes. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
About a parallel, so
Yeah.
one can be cleaned and the other can be used?
Yes, yeah. And I don't imagine they allowed this to be shut down for very long.
How wide did you say they were?
110 feet. 1,000 feet long. Pilot comes and picks up Ricky because his job is complete. This is the waterway leading to the Pacific. In the distance is a view of the Bridge of the Americas, which was inaugurated in October 12, 1962. It carries road traffic on the Panamanian Highway connecting North and South America. It soars 384 feet above mean high tide. Its coat hanger design reminds me a great deal of the Sydney Harbour Bridge in Australia. Here we're anchored. We're moored at the Balboa Yacht Club in sight of the bridge. The Balboa Yacht Club is reached first of all by a motor launch, and then walking a 300-foot long walkway. The club is in the distance. This is the site of the original 3-story yacht club that burned in April 2005. Built about the time the canal was opened in 1907, 1914 that should be. The bar and restaurant became a favorite spot for cruisers and yachtsmen over the years to meet and share tales, as well as clear customs, purchase a cruising permit, do provisioning, and rent and relax.
It wasn't very large though, was it?
Well, it was 3 stories, of course, yeah. No, the footprint shows it not being very large. The Balboa Yacht Club logo. The club over the past 20 years has fallen on hard times. Several new marinas have opened with better amenities such as floating docks, shore power, and easy access to the bathroom, showers, laundries, etc. The club never found it important to upgrade. This replaces the stately old bar and dining room of the bygone era. It also replaces the older generation of boaters as it is a young, non-boating crowd that now comes here.
But you went anyway.
Only place to go.
We're joined by Peter Stevens. Peter is our agent, responsible for having made the arrangements with the canal for our passage. He's known Doug and worked with him for over 25 years. I feature him in my book, alias Patrick Foley. He is a Brit by birth, but is now a U.S. citizen. He loves to butcher the King's English, and he is very, very entertaining. Here's an aerial view. Here's the Bridge of the Americas.
Where are the new marinas?
Right here, right about there.
Yeah, not the.
Yeah, right,
So
right there. Now, all of this area here was created by the fill or the spoils from Gilead Cut. It was all mud flats before the canal started to be built. It consists of 22 million cubic yards of dirt. It created 676 acres of reclaimed soil or property from the mud flats. And of course, this is Balboa, the city of Balboa, which was up until 2000, actually December 31st, 1999, a U.S. possession. And of course, as we all know, Jimmy Carter gave the canal back to the Panamanians. Well, gave the canal to the Panamanians. They never owned it before. So it's now Panamanian country. And by far and large, what I saw of Balboa, they've done a pretty decent job in keeping it up. The lawns are still nicely mowed. The houses, the government buildings are still freshly painted. Look pretty good. There were a few exceptions here and there. This is the Amador Causeway, which we'll see a little bit more in a second. But of course, this is the way up to Miraflores. Okay? All right. This is the anchorage at Balboa. Early morning sunrise. Silhouette of Panama City. Panama has a population now of 2.2 million people. Financial services is their major source of income. Very modern. Looks very much like you could be in downtown Manhattan. We went in and did a little bit of provisioning, and we went to Citibank. They have a huge presence there. Did you ever visit there? Did you ever get to Panama? Okay. Yeah, they're there along with everybody else. Bank of America, everybody. This is the far end of Amador Causeway. And it's connected to the mainland. This is Perico, this is Noas, and this is Flamingo. So as you're coming in from the Pacific, you get very used to hearing the word Flamingo, because that's the Flamingo station, radio station, that you get your directions from to proceed into the canal. And remember, they were all created by the spoils of the canal excavation, I'm sorry. The seagull crosses in front of a full moon on our first evening after leaving Balboa. Carlos strikes the colors of Panama, and we raise the flag of Costa Rica. These are courtesy flags that we fly off of the starboard yard. The boat's a U.S. flag vessel, so we fly the U.S. flag off of the aft stay. The weather improves except for the wind as we continue the difficult task of motoring southwest. And of course, we've really started the trek of 2,500 miles to Cabo San Lucas. We will motor sail most of the way as it is a beat to weather the entire trip. Because this part of Central America, if you look on the map, lies this way. It doesn't lie north-south, it lies east-west. So, and you know, the wind blows out of the west most of the time, and so you are into it all the way. There's little chance to sail. And of course, the reason that we weren't worried about fuel is because we never left really. I mean, there were a few places when we were out of sight of land. Our first port is a little banana, steamy banana port called Golfito. And this is Costa Rica. Bananas is still the largest crop that is used for export in Costa Rica. This facility, this is a 1,000-foot long loading dock. And in this particular case, what they grow here are not bananas, but they grow a banana tree for its leaves. And they press the leaves for its oils to be used in cooking oils, margarine, and other food products. The Dole Company owns and operates this facility. Notice the two navigation antennas. And although you can't see it here, this is a pretty narrow channel coming in. And you need to really line yourself up between these two so that you don't run aground. Windstar, anchored and discharging passengers for a day visit. You can see the tender lowering people here. She is a unique kind of passenger cruise ship. She holds 100 people and a popular ship to transit the canal in. We stop here, of course, for fuel and to catch our breath. This facility is called Terra Mar. We are actually on a buoy in front of the facility. It's owned by a young couple by the name of Tim and Kathy Duncan. And they offer a full range of services to the cruiser. And of course, they've known Doug for a good number of years. Notice the angle of the ramp leading up to the office. There's a tide fall of between 12 and 14 feet, reminiscent of here. Doug signs one of his books for Katie. I signed one of mine for her earlier because, again, she is predominantly featured in the book, although her name has been changed. I changed all the people's names to protect the innocent.
Did you, you may not have them here, but did you use in your book the particular buildings? Are they actual buildings, or did you recreate them?
No, most of them are actual, factual. Yeah. There's Katie in her kitchen. Not very big, but very ample, well stocked. She sent Carlos and I went to the meat market to buy ribeye steaks, and she cooked them for dinner. She's really a very fine cook. Nice gal, neat guy. And here Doug gets totally relaxed. Cuba Libre, rum and coke. Katie invites one of her good friends, Ingrid, to join us. Ingrid is Danish. She is age 91 and a hoot. She becomes the center of attraction. She's really funny. A lot of good stories. Here's Bob with a, 2-week-old beard with Magpie on the hook in the background. I'm probably talking, my mouth's open. This is what's called a long line boat, typical of the fishing boats in this area. They run these long lines between these buoys, and some of the lines can be as long as a mile. And they run them with the line, and then there's multiple hooks. And there can be anywhere between 1,000 to 2,000 hooks on one stretch of line a mile long. And they're at various lengths. When we're underway, we're constantly on the watch for their buoys that warn us of the presence of their long lines. As I say, they stretch for over a mile. Like Maine, the buoys are painted with colors identifying who owns them. Too soon, we're back underway. The weather remains clear but windy. This is the northern headland of Dulce Bay, from where we have come from Golfito. Doug has us anchor under the lee of these two islands to catch our breath. We've been underway 2 days when we've been bounced around quite a bit, although it doesn't look it there. The water's pretty placid. We need some...
On the nose?
Pardon?
Were you getting any?
All the nose, yep. We need some downtime. Scotty and Carlos checked the propeller drive shaft, strut, and bottom of Magpie for any damage. Kind of routine. A swim in the clear, warm waters of Costa Rica is very welcome. Scotty, with his long hair pulled back, has a different look. And Bob just floated around. He was very content. We take hot showers followed by a nap. We have dinner, fried chicken. It's Sunday afternoon after all. Alas, too soon, we prepare to leave for what we anticipate will be the continuation of a rough ride across Papagayos Bay. And Papagayos Bay is a large body of water where the mainland cuts back, and generally boaters go from the north to the south and cut across it. But it can be a rough ride. But, alas, not so. The wind decreases and the seas settle down to a smooth ride under the influence of a large ridge of high pressure that blankets much of the west coast of Central America and Mexico. Nicaragua, we actually come in right about here. There's Managua, so you can see.
Is it pretty easy coming into these ports? You didn't have much problem with officials or?
Sometimes, but generally not. And the way we do it is we try and select places where the people there handle the paperwork for us, and we pay them to do it. So 30 hours later, we were at our next stop, Marina del Sol. It's a hidden piece of paradise located 2 hours south of Managua on the Nicaragua coast. The resort is owned by Roberto Membrino, a most interesting and gracious gentleman and host. Of course, it helps that he and Doug are old friends from Puerto Vallarta. And his people checked us in and checked us out. We meet another one of Doug's old friends, Gene Menzie, and we have lunch outside Palapa of the marina. The resort features 2 hotel rooms, each containing 9 spacious rooms, a full-service restaurant and dining room capable of serving 150 people. And what their major source of, well, entertainment, income, whatever you care to call it, is they sponsor 4 bill fishing tournaments per year. And they get anywhere between 100 to 125 fishermen that come in to fish on the boats that they have. And that's why they have these facilities. An active volcano. I tried to get the name of it, and if Roberto told me what it was, I didn't record it, but it tends to stand as a silent sentinel. So off again, 293 miles to our next destination. It takes us roughly 2.5 days, and we enter Mexico at Marina Chiapas, which is the first port of call. Brand new marina. newly built and opened in May of last year, 2012. The marina manager is this young man, Enrique, another good old-time friend of Doug's, who managed the marina in Manzanillo, Mexico, for many years. So it was Old Home Week. And part of our checking into the country process, we are checked out by this four-legged agent.
What's on his legs?
Booties, so that he doesn't slip and slide and of course scratch the floors, the decks. Yeah. Yeah. Mimo, marina employee, jack of all trades, great guy. Just if you needed anything at all, sure, I'll get it for you. Give me a minute, I'll do it. The restaurant where we had lunch. To attendants at the Pemex station. And if you've been to Mexico, you know, you can buy gas at any station, any gas station, any brand you want, as long as it's Pemex. Because that's all there is. It's government owned. But they were, the fellow on the right spoke pretty decent English. And the older gentleman just kind of nodded.
Was the fuel reasonably priced? Or?
Not bad. In fact, it was the cheapest place that we bought fuel in the entire trip. These are a group of good people giving us a goodbye when we were on our way out. Pelicans all over the place. Pelicans here, pelicans there.
What's with the boat?
That's a tuna boat in for repairs. There was 3 of them. Yeah, 3 of them in there. Yeah, that's our farewell gang. So high pressure is still in control, so we don't hang around very long. And in this particular case, we draw a straight line to Acapulco, a distance of 490 miles. Here we are 4 days later, a partial skyline of Acapulco. And it has been a while since I've been to Acapulco, and boy, has it changed. Has it changed. The skyline doesn't look anything like what I remember. But when we pick up another hitchhiker, that is a frigate. With tails like this, like that. At least he didn't poop on us. This is the Acapulco Yacht Club, where we go for fuel. It is an absolutely first-class, beautiful yacht club. Photo taken beside a weathered ship's wheel and binnacle. This beautiful wagon sitting outside of their dining area. The pool is in the background. Note the boat's name. So no time to dally. We get underway immediately after refueling. Now, the yacht club is back over in here, so we have to come out and we go around. This is Punta Grifo. And what we'll do is we're going to follow this coastline all the way around until we pick up our northwest heading on the other side of this peninsula. This is, all right, let's see. Yeah, here we go. This is called the colonial section of old Acapulco, preferred by many as a place to visit and live. Stunning homes and stunning views. The only thing wrong with this is the guy doesn't have a beach. This is a beach that's called a morning beach because of its eastern exposure. And you can see it's quite popular with all of the umbrellas. And again, the yacht club is right in there, but around the corner. Got to go around the peninsula. And if you look closely, you may see the Tarzan Hotel. It is said that Johnny Weissmuller was a frequent visitor, spending many happy holidays here. It is also said that the cocktail daiquiri was first concocted and served here. This is it right here. And if you get a chance to go visit, even if you don't stay, go have a daiquiri at least, or a cocktail there. It's old world, and you can see what old Mexico looked like in the 20s and 30s, or old Acapulco. This is the El Mirador Hotel. These are the viewing stands, and this is where the cliff divers plunge into the sea. And again, the photo doesn't do it justice, the 3D aspect. But this was not, I guess a better way to put it is that I thought it was unusual that there wasn't some type of activity, but there wasn't. No show today. Maybe the tide was wrong, I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
So again, 295 miles to Puerto Vallarta. Pardon me, 450 miles to Puerto Vallarta, 4 days if the weather holds. Another hitchhiker. Another beautiful sunset as we round Cabo Corrientes, the southern headland that forms Banderas Bay, which is where Puerto Vallarta is situated at the far eastern edge of this large body of water. Sunrise over the Sierras. An early morning paddleboarder. The entrance to Nuevo Vallarta and Paradise Village. The inner harbor. Mega hotels, condos, 2 golf courses, a hospital, high-end restaurants, and hundreds of boat slips are all but a few of the amenities featured at Paradise Village. Have you been there? Yeah. Oh, is that right? All right. Well, this is Carlos and his boss. This gentleman on the left, Ricardo, is the owner of Vallarta Adventures. A very, very interesting gentleman, and he's a Mexican national, but raised and educated in the United States. He understands the lingo very, very well, and he's made a fortune in Mexico in the tourist trade. So we lay over for 2.5 days for maintenance and repairs. I didn't mention in the prior to this, but we did have a small engine oil leak that we kept babying, and then it was okay. And the autopilot gave us some trouble, again, because the autopilot hadn't been used to any great extent in the life of the boat. And now we're taking it and we're moving the daylights out of it. Where the piston goes into the cylinder, there was an oil seal that, from age, dried out. So we took the autopilot apart and we lubricated the ring, stuck it in. It still continued to leak. So rather than refill the reservoir with automatic transmission fluid, which is what it carries, we put 30-weight engine oil in it. Worked fine. But we knew it was only temporary. So the maintenance facility for Vallarta Adventures is in Paradise Village. So we got those 2 things fixed. The freezer wasn't holding correctly. I think they just recharged it. But now, here we go on the final leg. And this is from PV to Cabo San Lucas, 295 miles. The weather remains perfect.
Where is that on this map?
Right there. Cabo.
Over here?
No, right here. Yeah, at the tip of the
right
Baja.
there. Well, where's Puerto Vallarta?
Right here.
A little jog in on the
Oh, I see,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay. Yeah. Find out where I am here. Sunrise over the Pacific. We arrive at 4 a.m. I have dropped anchor to wait for daylight. This is the well-known and recognized rock formation known traditionally as Land's End at Cabo. Once a sleepy fishing village located at the end of the Baja California Sur Peninsula, today it is a popular tourist destination. This is the harbor entrance. This building over here, which is now a gift shop, refurbished gift shop, once housed the principal economic income source to the area. It was a tuna packing factory. To the center right is a new civic auditorium just recently built that's supposed to represent a whale. Now you really got to use your imagination to see a whale.
A whale.
A whale. It has not been well received by the locals, and it is considered ugly. But there it sits, some politician, I guess. I don't know. Yeah. We pass a boatload of people headed for a day of water sports, and this is a Vallarta adventure boat that has all those people from all those mega hotels, etc., headed for scuba, snorkeling, water skiing, parasailing, you name it. And most of them go up north of Cabo to San Jose, and that's where most of the facility. These, the people that own, or not the people, what am I trying to say? This part of Ricardo's business, they also have 9 camels that you can rent, and well, you're escorted, of course, but that's the extent that these people go to make your vacation a happy one. This is the manager of Cabo Adventures, and we have turned the boat over to him. He's happy, he's satisfied, he's given us a thumbs up. Our job is done. The only problem is we can't get a flight out of Cabo back to Puerto Vallarta. So we spend the night, which was very pleasant. This is the signature lighthouse at the entrance or in the harbor. And like I say, this was once a very sleepy fishing port, but today it is a crowded, busy tourist position. So we made it. Oh, pardon me. This is a statue outside of the auditorium. This is quite attractive. I don't think anybody's dissatisfied with that. But here we are, 3,500 miles, 38 days. And my last slide says, caution, you never know what you may find in the water. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you. Can I answer? Yes, Barbie.
Did you have a water maker on board, obviously?
No.
You did not?
No, we didn't.
How many gallons did you carry?
Oh, by the time, I guess, probably 50. Yeah, 50 gallons, yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's not much on a 50-foot boat.
Yeah, of course,
8 people or 6 people?
4 people. But,
Yeah, but I mean,
oh, yeah.
You probably converted one of the tanks
Yeah.
to gas.
Yeah, no,
we could have,
the 2 fuel tanks were 50 gallons each, or what, and then the water tank was 50 gallons as well. I don't know, on a charter with 8 people, good question. Did they run out? I don't know.
a lot of beer, I guess.
Maybe beer. Good old cerveza. So, anybody else? Question? All right. Well, thank you for coming. I appreciate it very much. Thank you. Thank you.